Welcome back to the Tara Palmeri Show. I know it's been a while since I have spoken directly to you. I have been in the middle of a move. It has been hectic and hairy, and right now I am in a hotel room, and apparently they're doing some construction next door, and that is why you can hear some of the hammering on the wall. But there has been some news in the past week. I hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. There are some new pictures coming out as the House Oversight Committee continues to release the Epstein files. These pictures are dark. They are from inside Epstein's depraved island, but he called Little Saint Jeff. And it's in the Virgin Islands. And you got to see the rooms and the house where so much of the depravity happened. You're going to see pictures coming up on this segment with Anderson Cooper. You'll get my take on, what was going on. How does this give us insight into his life, and how important it is that we see these pictures, because seeing is believing when the president of the United States continues to call this a hoax. And as I mentioned on Anderson Cooper, so much of the depravity, so much of the extreme abuse happened on Epstein's island because it was remote. It was hard to get to. You had to get in a helicopter or a boat. And so many of these girls were trapped there on the island. Virginia wrote about being brutally assaulted on that island. Sarah Ransome, another survivor, tried to swim off. It was so terrible. And there is a very, very aggressive current there. So you'll see there's just things that you wouldn't expect, like a dentist chair, creepy masks all over the walls. It just paints a world that I think I would be frightened to be a part of. I know I would be if I was the age of the children and young girls that ended up there. So I think it's really important for everyone to see that. Now, the New York Times has a new op-ed out, and they are saying that we shouldn't trust the administration when it comes to the Epstein files. The headline is, let me read it to you. It says, Trump has made the Epstein saga a case study in manipulation. And they're saying what I think so many of us have been thinking. This administration has been lying the entire time about the files. From I have the list on my desk to there is no list, case closed, nothing to see here. President Trump saying it's a hoax after years of manipulation, and saying that this, was going to expose the rot in the Democratic Party when suddenly President Trump found out that he would be in the files. There was a real effort to shut it down, from the Speaker of the House, the president applying pressure on members of Congress not to vote to release the files. Now, it's up to the Department of Justice and the people who are running it. Pam Bondi, who, again, we can't trust. I mean, she has changed her tune so many times to release the full files. And now that there is this new case that is investigating Democrats, are we going to get the full files, or are they going to say, oh, that interferes with a pending investigation? So, there are a lot of questions right now that we all have about what we're actually going to see, and if those files are going to be mostly redacted, and whatever is released is going to be painted to suit an agenda that goes after President Trump's enemies and protects himself and his powerful friends. And actually, the New York Times editorial board says that the Congress should investigate the release of the Epstein files. And I agree with them. But we're 15 days away, as of recording this on December 4th, from the deadline. So, I'll be pouring through those files. There's about 300 gigabytes. It's a lot. And it will take time. And I think this investigation will last for a very long time if they take it seriously, if Congress takes this seriously. And I hope they do, for all of us, because the survivors, especially the survivors, they deserve to know the truth. They deserve to know why over 3 or 4 decades they have been ignored. But yeah, that's why I've been a bit MIA. But I was on a panel yesterday with Reuters explaining my mission, why I started this channel, why I believe in independent journalism, why I'm not timid about the facts, why I chase the story wherever it leads, why I don't have an agenda. I think you are all smart enough to know how to think and how to feel. And I'm just here to dig into stories and to report the facts. And I love having the conversations with all of you. So here is an appearance on Anderson Cooper 360. It is about these Epstein files and what has been revealed. Sarah Fitzpatrick from The Atlantic brought up some really interesting points as well, suggesting that there may have been, evidence tampering on the island, and that what we are seeing is not everything that was there. So stay tuned.
On this, Sarah Fitzpatrick, a staff writer for The Atlantic, an investigative reporter, joins me. Also with me, independent journalist Tara Palmeri, host of the Tara Palmeri Show podcast. Appreciate both of you being with us. Sarah, what do you see as the significance of these images?
I think it's very significant on a couple fronts. One, I think that we are, for the first time, seeing inside of Jeffrey Epstein's home. It's the place where some of the most horrific sex crimes occurred, and some real, criminal conduct. But I think what's important for me as an investigative reporter is that these images we've never seen inside, and they correspond and speak to what so many of the women who were abused on this island, how they described the rooms, how they described the layout. It just gives them additional credibility for the kind of really horrific things that they have described, not just to journalists, but also to members of law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Giuffre, who has died, had said that some of the worst abuse she suffered occurred on this island.
Absolutely. It was a place that was hard to get to. You had to get on a helicopter to get to the island, or a boat. It was specifically designed to be a place for pleasure for the powerful and for the weak to be stranded there, to the point that Sarah Ransome, one of the survivors, tried to swim off, even though the current is quite severe, and she was willing to risk her life. That was how terrible the experience was on the island. And we know that Virginia was severely raped on this island. I also would have wished that Virginia was alive today. I would have asked her all about that dentist chair and what that meant and what that was, because to me there's something sadistic about it.
It's kind of I mean, it's bizarre to have a dentist chair in somebody's private home.
Also, just no one wants to go to the dentist. There's something dark about it. The masks on the wall. There's a leeriness to it all. It's almost like you're walking through a crime scene. I mean, you are walking through a crime scene. When I see the rooms, they're kind of hotel type rooms, could be for anybody. It has just
there's kind of
energy.
no personality other than sort of creepiness to these things. Otherwise, there is this sort of anonymity to it, of sort of anonymous hotel room somewhere in the Caribbean.
Exactly, and it's interesting. You could even see from the picture of the cameras. I mean, there are cameras everywhere. They're being recorded. You could say for security, but also what I had heard from the survivors, that they believe that they were always being recorded there. Even the statues are weird, like the one by the pool. And I think it's important for us to have this documentary evidence, especially when you have the president of the United States saying this is a hoax. It's a hoax. Seeing is believing. See the place where he lived. And this isn't all just some wealth porn. This is a very perverted man, and you can see it from the way that he lived.
Sir, I mean, it is going to be incredible to see what happens with Ghislaine Maxwell, given the interview she gave at Todd Blanche, the weirdness of that interview, and the statements that the president has made repeatedly when asked about this repeatedly, not ruling out automatically. Of course, I would not, pardon or give clemency to a convicted sex offender.
Absolutely. I think that speaks to the fact that there are still so many unanswered questions, but it is a pattern that is so unprecedented in terms of how the Department of Justice normally runs. And I think that speaks to how this case under multiple administrations has been just really mishandled, and that has fueled the public interest. And one thing I think that's really important about these photos is that you mentioned that it's kind of creepy and it looks almost sterile. That is because these photos were not taken until well after Epstein had died. This was part of the Virgin Islands investigation. And so there was a lot of time for things to be cleared out, for evidence to be potentially destroyed or altered. And so I think it's important that and that's a really important question that I hope we learn in these Epstein files, whatever comes of them, is it's our understanding that there was really never any law enforcement activity, that there were never leads that could have been followed, that there was never surveillance. There were all sorts of things that my sources wanted to do in early investigations into Jeffrey Epstein that they were prevented from doing, which would have yielded really important evidence. And so I think it's important to know that, yes, these images are there, but these are very sanitized from what could have been.
And Tara, I mean, one of the things that's so, one of the many chapters in this horrific saga is that the people who are now in power, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, the FBI, were the ones leading the charge when it was a Democratic administration and they were portraying this as this is, Democrats and a cabal and sort of linking it with, QAnon and that whole conspiracy theory. And now that they are the ones in charge, for them to be the ones suddenly changing their tune and saying, oh, there's actually nothing to see, it's just another bizarre element of like, why have they suddenly changed their tune?
It's because they know it's political. And it always was political, but for them it was a Democratic cabal until they woke up and realized that actually at the time when Jeffrey was committing his worst crimes, the president was also a Democrat at that time. And it was a cudgel. They never looked at it in terms of the victims and what it meant for them. And they pulled on the heartstrings of American people, feeling like they were the underdogs not being heard and the powerful elites were getting away with crimes. Turns out they are, but those powerful elites are now in power. So I think, I hope that we find out so much more. I can't believe December 19th it will finally happen, and I hope that they don't use some sort of workarounds with these SDNY investigations to withhold information, selectively choosing what to see or what not to see. But I think it will bring I hope it brings some peace to a lot of the women.
Tara Palmeri, thanks you so much. Sarah Fitzpatrick as well just had federal immigration agents, I should say, detaining people in New Orleans and being met with some resistance. President Trump also sends agents to go after undocumented Somali immigrants in Minnesota.
I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country.
Minnesota's Attorney General joins us ahead.
That was another episode of the Tara Palmeri Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. You will not see me in this space. I know it's a little odd. This kind of kitschy hotel again. I will be moving on to a more permanent home, and I'll be set up, and then you can all message me about my plants and my background and give me all the tips that I need. I so love being a part of this community with you. If you like this show, please subscribe, rate it, follow, share it with all your friends. If you like my independent journalism, please go to tarapalmeri.com and sign up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. That's how you can get my exclusive reporting, and it's how you can support my independent journalism by becoming a paid subscriber. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abinate. I want to thank Abby Baker, who does my research and my social media, Dan Rosen, my manager, and Adam Stewart, who does the thumbnails. See you again, hopefully soon.